Hey, Kyra, welcome to the Soul to Soul podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Kay. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast today.
I was just mentioning to you offline how excited I feel about chatting to you today. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what magic is about to unfold between us and our conversation.
Yes, me too. I'm really excited to chat with you as well. I've been listening to your podcast and it's been really inspiring. So I'm happy to join the conversation.
So I wanted to start by asking you about your Herbal Moon Goddess Academy, and you're the high priestess of this academy. My first question is going to be, what is a high priestess?
Yeah, okay, great question. So I guess the High Priestess, I don't know, are you familiar with tarot at all?
Not really, and I reckon you're going
Ah,
to educate me on it.
I am. Yeah, so like in my Herbal Moon Goddess Academy, one of the biggest focuses is learning how to read tarot. And one of my favorite tarot cards is the High Priestess card. And the High Priestess is all about like listening to your intuition and diving into those secrets and mysteries of life, like looking into the deeper meaning, the symbolism, the spiritual kind of element of life. So, yeah, for me in the Herbal Moon Goddess Academy, I feel like that's my role. That's what I'm doing with my online school. I'm teaching women how to connect with their intuition and, yeah, discover the deeper secrets to life.
So we're doing the same kind of work, but just through different healing modalities, which I love.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so, what are the foundation principles behind tarot?
Well, I feel like tarot originated hundreds of years ago, like as a playing card sort of game. Like it's fun, but you can kind of use it to connect to spirit or to the universe to get that guidance that you're looking for. So, while it's a really valuable source for helping you connect to the universe, at the same time, it originated as a card game. It's supposed to be taken a bit lightheartedly. So it's a great tool, but at the same time, if the cards say something that doesn't resonate, don't get too worried. It's just the cards.
I'm wondering too, as I reached out to you because I'm especially interested in the moon energy, and a lot of my listeners will be familiar with how the various moon phases can impact our life. And so I really want to dive deep into that with you. So I'm wondering if you can share with us how the moon phases impact us on the daily in our lives.
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know if you know, Kay, but I actually wrote a book this year all about the moon and the different moon phases and everything. So I could literally talk for hours about this topic. But in a nutshell, like I have found following the moon phases in my daily life to be such a useful guide for tuning into the energy so I can kind of align my energy with that. So I know, like, for example, like around the new moon, our energy can be quite low. So I know that when it's that new moon period, then, I can just take things a bit more slowly, be gentle with myself. And then as the moon's waxing and getting closer to full, that's when our energy starts to rise. So I know that those are the times of the month where I'm going to be more energetic and I'm going to have more energy to, cross things off my to-do list, get a lot of my work done for the month. And so I guess, and we are kind of talking about this offline as well before, like moving away from like a structured kind of masculine life and adopting a more feminine approach. And that's what I feel like the moon is. It's about honoring those different cycles that we go through, especially as women as well. Like if you're menstruating, then you have that cycle as well, which can be closely connected to the moon cycle. So, yeah, there's a lot of magic that happens when we follow those moon phases in our life. It can really help you find a more feminine flow.
So, do you structure your life in alignment with the moon phases?
I do. I do. Well, I try. I definitely try. Like, I mean, I'm not 100% perfect, but Yeah, like absolutely. I will always set like new intentions, new goals at the new moon, which is a perfect time for new beginnings. And I'll take a lot of action during those 2 weeks from the new moon to the full moon, and I'll work towards my goals. And then after that full moon, I'll give myself permission to step back and not work so hard. So right now, that's where we are in the moon phase. We're in that waning period. So it's like a big sigh of relief. Like for me, it's like, it's okay, Kari, you don't have to do everything this week. You can just take some time off, celebrate your achievements. And yeah, I found that it's especially like juggling work and homeschooling and so many other things in my life, following the moon has helped me step back a bit, like not be such a workaholic and perfectionist. Like like following the moon, it's really like a permission slip to say it's okay to have time off and time to rest.
When I had a look at your Instagram page and your website, I was like, this lady is a doer. I was so impressed. I was like, wow, she is committed. You have amazing resources available. And if you're listening today, after our chat, go and check out Kyra's website and her Instagram page, because she does have a lot of resources that can support you if you're looking for support. So I asked my family this morning before we jumped on this chat. I always let them know who I'm recording a podcast interview with and what it's about. And I asked them if they had any questions for you. And as always, divine timing comes into play. And you mentioned menstrual cycle. And one of my daughters wanted to know, what impact does the moon have on our menstrual cycle?
Yeah, well, it's actually really interesting because that's kind of like the topic of my podcast that I've just released this week. And so I've just chatted all about that. But I have like this real deep fascination with our menstrual cycle and the moon cycle, because prior to doing the work I'm doing now, this spiritual stuff, I was actually a medical herbalist doing a lot of work with fertility and women's health. And so I got to know all about the women's cycle, like in that whole medical perspective. And so as I've kind of become more spiritual, I've seen how the moon really relates to the menstrual cycle. And something that's really interesting is the concept of aligning your cycle with the moon cycle. So like naturally, like if you go out underneath the full moon or you're exposed to that light from the full moon, that can stimulate ovulation if you keep the rest of the month pretty dark, like in your bedroom, and you're not exposed to excessive lights at nighttime and stuff. It can really affect your hormones and shift your cycle into alignment with the moon. So that's something that's been really fun to play with. And the more I talk about that, I found that other women have experienced the same thing, going out under the full moon to prompt that ovulation and to align their cycle with the moon cycle.
And so does that mean that you will menstruate with the full moon phase?
No, so generally menstruating with the new moon phase. Because if you're going out and ovulating with the full moon, but at the same time, like it's not always that simple. Like I know a lot of women, myself included at times, like when we menstruate at the full moon and then we ovulate at the new moon. So it's interesting how it can affect women, I think, in like different phases of their life as well. Like especially once you pass those childbearing years, as I think possibly both of us are, then I feel like we tend to menstruate more at that full moon sort of time. Whereas in the younger, more fertile childbearing years, we'll tend to menstruate more during that new moon phase.
That's so interesting, because I've gone from menstruating in the full moon phase to now menstruating under the new moon.
Wow. It's really interesting.
And because I'm quite conscious of it, and I'm like, wow, this is flipping for me, which is really interesting.
Yeah. It's really interesting, like hearing how other women's cycles match up to the moon cycle. Like we're not all the same, and yeah, we definitely have different things affecting us. So it is really interesting.
Wow. Now, I wanted to ask you, can the moon energy impact our lives even if we're not conscious to its effects on us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I offer a moon manifesting calendar as a freebie to my email subscribers. So if anyone wants a copy of that, we'll have a link there as well for you guys to download that. But in the moon manifesting calendar, each day there's like a prompt about how to work with that moon energy. And some days, like I'll get messages from people who just, weren't really aware of the moon, and they just happen to look at the moon calendar and see the prompt for today, and like it's something that they've already done. And like they message me and they're like, wow, I was so in sync with the moon without even realizing it. So yeah, it's really interesting. Like the moon definitely affects us even when we're not conscious of it. Yeah.
Very, very cool. And it's an affirmation that you are tuned in to yourself and tuned into the universal power when you feel like you're in alignment and you actually see those synchronicities coming into play.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a real big confirmation from the universe. Like, yeah, you're like in alignment.
So you won't know much about me at all, but I work as a healer and a mindset coach. And so manifesting is such a huge topic that I teach on. And so this is the question I'm most excited about. What is moon manifesting?
Oh, awesome. Great question. Okay, so I know that you already know all about manifesting. And I feel like, with manifesting, there's kind of like, I don't want to say a formula, but there's like a process that, you can follow to manifest stuff. And I found that blending that with the energy of the moon creates this beautiful framework to follow. So like, I'll guide you, I guess, briefly through how I manifest with the different moon phases. So with the new moon, setting those intentions or goals, like thinking about what you want to manifest. And then during the waxing crescent moon, so the few days after the new moon, is the best time for planning, researching ahead. You get clearer on what it is you want to manifest. Then at the first quarter moon, it's the perfect time for taking action. So this is like when you actually go out there and do the work and you do all that scary stuff that's actually going to make your goals manifest. And then the waxing gibbous, so the few days before the full moon, is when we have a lot of energy. So we're really pushing ourselves towards meeting those goals, really pushing through any obstacles. Then at the full moon is a time of manifesting and celebrating how far we've come. But that's not to say that you're necessarily going to manifest those intentions that you set 2 weeks earlier. I find it sometimes more helpful to see it as, for example, you set intentions like in the new moon in Aries, and those intentions won't manifest till about 6 months later in the full moon in Aries. So that's something to keep in mind. And then with the waning moon after the full moon, it's a time of like letting go. So the waning gibbous is a time when you're sharing or letting go of anything that's unaligned. The last quarter moon gives us an opportunity to review and declutter. The waning crescent moon then is the perfect time for healing and focusing on self-care. Self-care is super important as well. And then, you're back at the new moon when you can set your new intentions again.
Wow. And if you're listening to this in real time, this podcast episode is going to be released on the new moon. Interestingly enough, when I was looking at my calendar, I was like, great timing. So
that's
if
awesome.
you perhaps want to implement this into your daily life, then use the tips that Kyra is sharing with us and put them into action and get started if it feels right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be so exciting. I would love for your listeners to start taking action and manifest some new moon intentions.
Because my clients, I'm always saying to them, it's all about proof. For me, we do the work together and then go out and take action in your life and then come back and share that feedback with me, because I know it's going to happen. But it's when you see it for yourself and then share it with someone else, that you actually start to actually believe it in your soul, that what you're doing is working. So do you feel happy sharing the kind of things you've been manifesting under using these principles?
Yeah, okay. Where do I start?
Everything.
Well, I think, let's see. In my book, Moon Manifesting, I've written a few examples. So I'm going to use one of those examples. So a few years ago, and this is probably one of my favorite ones because it was like right back at the beginning of my moon manifesting journey. So it was kind of like proof to me, like, yeah, this works. So a few years ago, I was very pregnant, like probably 36 weeks pregnant with my fourth child. And we had like a little 5-seater car. And so, yeah, with a family that was about to become 5 members to 6 members, I really needed a bigger car to fit us all in. And so I was, yeah, at the new moon, I was like, universe, I really need a 7-seater car. This is what I need. I wasn't like really specific about the type of car. I just had to have 7 seats. And then like we lived out on a farm, and I was driving into town on like the main road, and there was this 7-seater car just sitting there for sale. It was like $3,000, which, you know, it's a pretty decent price for a car. And I called my husband. I said, oh, there's a car here. Do you want to check it out and see if it's all right? Anyway, so I went into town, did my shopping, came back home. Later that afternoon, my husband drove home in this car, this 7-seater car. He just bought it for me because we just had the money sitting there in our account. It was like, oh my God, like that was totally unexpected. I didn't say go out and buy it, but there's my car. So that was pretty amazing to just see that just happen so fast. It was like I just asked for something and it just showed up in my life.
And do you believe that we can all do this?
Absolutely. Like you just have to start by asking, like just set that intention, put it out there to the universe. If you don't do that, then nothing will happen, or, you know, it won't happen how you want it to happen. But that first step, setting those intentions and asking for something, yeah, it really kickstart things to come into your life.
Now, I talk about our intuitive superpowers, and I see that you talk about moon manifesting superpowers. I love the connection there. So what is your interpretation of moon manifesting superpowers?
Yeah, okay. This is an interesting question. There's a lot of ways to answer this. So in my book, I talk about like finding your moon manifesting superpowers by tuning into your moon sign, so the zodiac sign that the moon was in at your time of birth, but also finding out what phase the moon was in when you were born. And these two pieces of information can tell you so much about yourself. Like, I feel like a lot of people know what their sun sign is in astrology, but not many people know what their moon sign is. But your moon sign is just as important, or perhaps even more important, because I feel like your moon sign is who you already are, but your sun sign is like who you're trying to become in this lifetime. So yeah, by tuning into your moon sign, it really helps you find those superpowers that you were born with, like just what you're naturally good at doing.
I'm just letting that land. That's really powerful. I'm learning so much, which is fantastic. And I was saying that with you at the beginning, I love to ask questions that I'm curious about. And sometimes it takes a minute for the information to just land and feel into that. So that's really powerful. So that, in effect, you're saying that we come into this world with certain attributes, however you want to phrase it, skill set, talents. And so there's aspects of us that are who we are, so we don't need to change them, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It's all about working with your natural strengths. And like, I don't know how much you use astrology, but like astrology has been such a big part of my life for the past few years, and learning how to read my own astrology chart or my kids' astrology charts has really opened my eyes to these natural skills, these natural attributes that we're born with, and how to work with, you know, who we already are rather than trying to be someone that we're not.
And so I don't know too much about astrology, but I have had my chart done. I did it. Do you know Milton Black? Do you remember
Oh,
Milton Black from very long ago?
the name sounds so familiar.
This is over 20 years ago, and he read my chart for me, and I'm going to share it here because it's comical, because at the time I was with someone who I thought I would like to have been with long term, and my chart said otherwise. And he was like, no, you're not going to be with this person. Your soulmate is waiting for you, and had some range of dates that he felt that this was going to happen, and went on to explain where we would live, what it would be like in quite amazing detail. And then he went on to explain that I would buy a new car, and he explained the details around that. Then he explained our future, which included our children and the timeframes when they would come into our life, and the fact that we would move a lot. And it was really, really interesting. At the time, I didn't believe him that I was going to meet someone else, but he was right. And interestingly enough, I've never been able to locate that chart.
Oh, wow.
It disappeared.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I don't know how it disappeared, but it disappeared. But the details, those details that I explained, were ones that came to fruition.
Yeah. Wow. That's
It's really powerful.
amazing. Wow. That is incredible. Wow. I love the power of astrology. Like that's so cool. I love that it just all came to fruition for you.
Yeah. And so is there an aspect of our destiny is predetermined? What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree that our destiny can be predetermined. Like, and I say that based off astrology as well. Like I know that, like, you know, I'm a herbalist, I'm a yoga teacher, but I think for me at the moment, I'm an astrologer. I call myself an astrologer more than anything else. So particularly looking at someone's chart, I'll look at their north node of future destiny. And for me, that's like one of the more important parts on our chart, because it tells us so much about what we're here to do in this lifetime. And for me personally, finding out about my north node, at first I was like, no, that's not right. But like the more I've like lived through it, it's actually like, actually, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing here. So I'm learning to embrace that. And for me, my north node is in Aquarius in my fourth house. So that's all about like doing things differently with your home and family life. And as you know, I'm homeschooling my 4 kids. So for me, that was kind of like one of those big aha moments where it's like, actually, yeah, this is part of my destiny. I'm supposed to be homeschooling my children and doing these different things with my family.
So if you're listening and you've already had your chart done, is there any benefit in revisiting that down the track?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel different astrologers will focus on different things on your chart and they'll give different perspectives. So absolutely, like especially like depending on like what you're trying to find guidance on at the moment. Like there's astrologers out there who focus on career or love or finances. So yeah, absolutely. Like if you've had your chart done before, I would highly recommend getting it again. Yeah.
So it's like
Always eye-opening.
like working with a healer or a healing practitioner. Everybody brings their own unique flavor
Yeah,
to their role.
exactly. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So
It is, isn't it?
I know, I'm just like, I'm so excited because I love having these conversations where we're having a chat, but my mind's making all the connections as well
Yeah.
at the same time. So my next question is going to be, Is it true that we can also connect to the mystical energy of stars?
When you say connect to the mystical energy of stars, what do you mean exactly?
If we can connect to the moon and we connect to the sun,
yeah,
I would
absolutely.
imagine that all of the universe's creation works together.
Yeah. Okay. I follow where you're going. Okay. Yeah. So, like, I look up at the stars. Like last night, I literally went outside and I was looking at the stars, and I'm like, "There's Jupiter. There's Saturn. Oh, that must be Venus." And and so, like, I look up at the night sky, like, yeah, probably nearly every night, and and I see those stars up there, but because like I have this, I guess, astrological background, I see those stars for the planet that they are, and I think, oh, that's right, Jupiter's in Pisces, or whatever, and I think about what that means. And like, you can go really deep with astrology, like, knowing what each of the planets means and what they mean through the signs, and understand how that affects your life as well. And that's something that I do in astrology readings, is I look at someone's chart and I look at the chart of where the stars and planets are at the moment. And I kind of like, cross that over so I can see how those planets are affecting their natal planets, like where the planets were at the time of birth. So absolutely, like, I feel like there's of course different ways that you can connect to the energy of those different planets and stars up there, but that's probably how I do it. Like, mostly, yeah.
That's beautiful. So, being an entrepreneur, I know you are supporting entrepreneurs as well. So, how can we use the astrology and moon energy information that you teach about to support us in business or in our career?
Yeah, well, this is actually a beautiful question, and I have a really good answer. So, I actually have a free hour-long workshop, which I can, pop the link through for everyone to click on if you're interested. And in this hour-long workshop, it's called my AstroBiz Planning Workshop, and it pretty much guides you how to use the energy of the moon and the planets to create a really soul aligned business strategy. And yeah, it's a very like astrologically guided, I guess, business planning workshop. And it's this process that I use regularly in my business to really guide how to direct my energy throughout the year, throughout the week, throughout the month. Like, using astrology to run a business can really help you. Like, even if your business has nothing to do with astrology or whatever, like, you can still kind of use that for the planning in the background sort of thing.
A lot of people wouldn't know this, but lots of really well-known successful entrepreneurs actually have their own either astrologer or healer on board as part of their support team for businesses, but they tend to keep it under wraps, and they tend to keep it as kind of like a secret weapon. And so I'm fully in alignment with you and the power of connecting into our inner wisdom through astrology or through whatever it is that you feel drawn to. And so how did you discover that? How did you discover that in your biz?
Yeah. Oh, how did I? I'm not even sure how I really started doing that. I think it was just like, as I was learning about astrology, I feel like I started to begin to put together the pieces of how that could not only just shape my life in general, but how I could use that with my business as well. And, as a solopreneur, as someone working from home, and my business is like my fifth baby, like, I put a lot of time into that. And a few years ago, I remember writing in my journal thinking, I just want a way to work smarter instead of harder. And in the months after that, like, this is when I began to learn about astrology, and I put together the pieces, like, how to align your business with the sun seasons, because Like, for example, right now we're in Scorpio season, which affects everyone. Like, we're all feeling that Scorpio energy as the sun goes through Scorpio. So this is a really good time for talking about like transformations or decluttering stuff that's not aligned with you. So like absolutely using that sort of energy to guide what you're talking about in your business or what you're offering in your business. It really helps you tune into the collective so that, yeah, like other people are feeling aligned to what you're talking about and offering.
So at the moment, I'm downloading a lot of information and guidance as to which direction my business is going. So how it works with me is when I sit in meditation, or I just get word for word given what it is that I need to do, and
Beautiful.
dates and costings, and so that's how my intuition feeds me my information. I'm wondering, is that in alignment with what's going on right now with the sun and the Scorpio? I don't know if I'm using that in context, but
Yeah, no,
is
that's
that in
perfect. Yeah.
alignment? Yeah.
Yeah, and it totally is, because like when it's Scorpio season as well, being a water sign, like we're more in tune with our intuition and our psychic abilities. Like Scorpio season is like season of the witch. We have like, you know, Halloween, not that we really celebrate it here in Australia, but like there's that sort of energy that happens in Scorpio season. So definitely I feel like we can be a bit more intuitive and be a bit more receptive to those intuitive downloads with the sun and Scorpio.
Wow, that's really powerful. So I'm wondering, how did this calling find you? Is this something that you've been immersed in your whole life, or I'm wondering how you found your way into this work?
Yeah, so I'm a Gemini sun, so I'm very like all over the place. I have lots of different passions and interests. So over the years, I've always kind of changed what I've done. Like seriously, every 2 years I'm in a different business. Actually, no, at the moment, Herbal Moon Goddess has been going for 3 years, but that's good.
So give yourself a pat on the back.
Yes, go me. But no, I started off, I wasn't very spiritual at all. Like through my childhood, like maybe at times like I was into some crystals, and I remember making my own runes with rocks when I was probably like 12 or something. So, you know, I dabbled in it, but it wasn't something that I really took seriously. I was like, oh, you know, this is just, you know, it's not real. I was very skeptical, I guess. I didn't have the belief in the universe or anything. I met my husband when I was 18, and he comes from a very spiritual background. And I remember meeting his mom, and she wanted to do a reading for me. And I was just like, oh my God, like, what does this mean? Like, I was like so young and naive and like, so like kind of freaked out. But like, you know, it was fine. She didn't say anything too bad. And I feel like, yeah, like my husband's family really immersed me in spirituality in a real gentle way, like just gently exposing me to things. Like my husband had like a lot of crystals that he's found from traveling around Australia, and he has a few decks of oracle cards and stuff. So I started being immersed into it, but I don't think I really started to believe in it till, I don't know, maybe like 25, 26, 27. And I'm not really sure exactly what like flicked the switch in my head, but like that was when I started like looking into the moon cycle and how the moon affects us. And I started looking into like witchcraft, I guess, like as a form of like spirituality, like trying to find a deeper meaning in life and a way to kind of create more magic. And like I don't really like using the term like, you know, witchcraft, because I don't like, you know, sit around cackling over a cauldron or whatever, or casting spells. But like for me, that was how I found my intuitive powers, and that was what introduced me to tarot and astrology. And as a herbalist, that's what also like led me to finding the more spiritual connections to the herbs rather than just the medicinal sort of stuff I learnt about in college. So over the years, I guess I just kind of moved more and more into the spiritual path. And then, yeah, about 3-4 years ago, I was practicing as a medical herbalist, focusing on women's health and fertility. And I started feeling this calling to offer like a full moon circle in my local area. And for me, I was just kind of like, this is weird because it's really not in alignment with the work I'm doing as a herbalist. It's very like witchy. No one's going to come to this. Everyone's going to think I'm weird. And anyway, I teamed up with a friend and we co-hosted this full moon circle. And we were like, oh, you know, no one's going to show up. We'll be happy if like 5 people show up. We had like 27 people book in, and we had like this tiny little room. It was like this like little reception area from the practice I was working at. And it was just packed with these women. And I think there was one guy there as well. And like, they were like really into it. They really loved this full moon stuff. So that was really what drew me to starting this business, Herbal Moon Goddess. And it's been very focused on connecting with the energy of the moon. Yeah, over these past few years, that's really what my work revolves around now, the moon.
I love it. I love it. Now, I'm also wondering, do you have your own daily self-care ritual that you embrace? And do you feel called to share what that is with us?
Oh, absolutely. At the moment, though, I will admit I'm really, really slack. During Virgo season, I was like really strict. So I'm going to talk about my ritual during Virgo season. I would wake up early in the morning. Waking up early before the kids get up has become an essential thing for me. I used to always sleep in late, and I like having that kid free time in the morning. So that's essential. Wake up early, make myself a green juice and lots of fresh fruit and veggies. Then a bit of yoga, meditation. Like sometimes it might just be a few salutes to the sun, or sometimes it might be a bit of a longer flow. But yeah, something to just get me in the right vibe. And then after that, I'll do a bit of journaling. Like I'll write out what I want to do for the day, as well as like my intentions, how I want to feel. I'll check in with the moon, with like the astrology of the day, like, you know, where the planets are and how that's going to affect me for the day. And yeah, write out like a list of things I'm grateful for. So yeah, about 2 hours later, I'm like ready to start the day. But yeah, my morning ritual has become a really essential space for me, especially homeschooling with my 4 kids now. Like this year, I've been really stressed. And so that's why I make that dedicated time and space to wake up early and do my morning ritual, because on the days that I miss that, I'm so grumpy and irritable, and like my kids are just like, oh, mummy's having a bad day. So yeah, morning rituals are just so essential for just getting your vibe in a good space.
And so for anybody listening, are your children young, or what stage of parenting are you in at the moment?
Yeah, so my eldest is 12, almost 13. So he's like that rebellious sort of tween age sort of energy, but he's good. But then my younger 3 are 9, 7, and 4, and they're just like these 3 little troublemakers. I mean, they're great. They're great, but like I have my hands full with those 3.
And so what's your advice there'll be lots of parents that listen to this chat. What's your advice for someone who has a full life like you do and is parenting, because that's the reality of the world that we live in, and how to balance that? What would you share with anyone listening?
Yeah, and I feel like this is also really important, like, because a lot of parents have been kind of forced into doing school from home over the past year and a bit. So yeah, so if you're in that situation, you're trying to juggle work from home and school from home and all that, just finding that time and space for yourself, like wherever it fits in best for you. So if it doesn't work well in the mornings, maybe some time at nighttime when your kids go to bed, or, you know, even just like a midday shavasana or something, like midday meditation, just finding that time for yourself where the kids just don't interrupt you. You have no distractions. You just like turn your phone on silent as well. Like having that dedicated time to just nourish yourself, nurture yourself mentally, spiritually, but also physically. Yeah, it's super important. So just try to make that space for it.
And one of the reasons I ask my guests what their self-care rituals look like is because I think it's really important that we understand that everybody's is different and unique. And if you need to be establishing a ritual for yourself that feels good and that leaves you feeling inspired and motivated to go into your day. I think when I was first foraying into this healing world, I felt that I needed to do certain things, and I felt the messaging was around, if you're not doing this, then you're not taking care of yourself. You know, if you're not eating organic, then you're not taking care of yourself. And there was a certain amount of guilt that I would put on myself if I didn't do things a certain way. But I feel like this is shifting. And I feel like a lot of us now are realizing, hey, it doesn't have to fit into a certain box. It really has to fit in with me and what my lifestyle is like. Because when you mentioned finding time in your day, for me, I have teenagers and they're a lot more independent. My youngest is 13 and my eldest is 16. And so our lifestyle is different than when they were 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for me right now, I have been getting up in the morning and taking myself out for a walk because I want that space to be able to work in my business during the day. Whereas last year, I would probably use the school hours to exercise. I would take care of them and then I would fit me in somewhere in there. I still do that with my meditation. So if my husband takes them to school, that's when I sit down to meditate. Once they've left, say goodbye. And one of the other things for me is connecting with my loved ones is really important. So in that morning time, when they're getting ready to go to school, I will connect with them. That's really important for me.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
And I'm feeling so much better. This is the reason I'm sharing it, is because I'm feeling the benefits of making that time for myself. And coming into summer, we live in a coastal town. And so coming into summer, beach swims will come into my self-care ritual. I'm really fortunate that my whole family loves the ocean. So this is something we often do together.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
But that's not to say when my girls go to school that I don't go for a swim. I certainly do.
Oh, perfect. I know. And it's important that we can do these things without feeling guilt as well. Like, as mums, we're allowed to go and do something fun without the kids. It's okay.
That's a really important point that you make, that guilt that we feel like if we're taking care of ourselves, it's taking us away from our parenting responsibilities and obligations. I really believe that if we want our children to be the best version of themselves, that we need to model it.
Exactly.
Not just talk about it.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I feel like that modeling is super important. And I've been trying to practice more of that myself, like being really mindful of, you know, when I'm using my phone and putting the phone down so I can be present, and modeling that beautiful like yoga and meditation and that sacred space that we create for ourselves. My youngest, who's 4, she loves doing yoga and meditation because she's just been exposed to that for like her whole life. So it's really beautiful to see how we can model that behavior and see our kids reflect that back to us.
So with your parenting, yourself and your husband, are your children immersed in this world? So this is their norm? Would that be fair to say? Or is it something you're happy for them to find on their own?
A bit of both. Like, I don't feel like I force anything, but I give them opportunities to be involved. So if I'm like doing yoga and I'm in the sort of space that I can share that practice, then I might invite my kids to join with me. Or sometimes when I'm lying in bed at night, me and my daughter will listen to meditation music together. Or sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, my girls want to pick like some oracle cards or tarot cards with me, and they all love crystals. But my eldest, who's 12, 13, because when I was younger, I wasn't like so spiritual. As he's grown up, he hasn't really been as exposed to it. He's only been exposed to it over the past few years. So he's very skeptical, and he calls me like a hippie. He's like, no, I don't want to do yoga. Like, he laughs at me, and it's like, that's okay. I'm just doing my thing.
It's great though, because I often say to my girls, do you know what? You have to form your own identity, and asking questions is fantastic. You want them to ask questions and you want them to challenge your beliefs, because then they're actually really trying to find a way to substantiate why would I embrace this? And
Yeah.
I've had a similar experience with my elder daughter in exactly the same way that you've just explained, where my journey has become more spiritual, but wasn't when she was first born. And so I've just shared with her my own upbringing, in that, I had the same experience as she did. I had to figure it out for myself. And I've always said, I don't expect you to believe in what I believe in. You've got to go and discover that for yourself. And so to give them that complete freedom to discover what the world is to them,
absolutely,
it's just gold. And so upon reflection, this is a few years later now, both my girls are like, we want in. We want in.
Beautiful.
And I'm like, this is awesome. So, and they're doing it in their own way. So my eldest daughter loves coming to yoga when she can.
Oh, yay.
My youngest daughter is watching from the sides at the moment with some of the events. I host teen events, so for their age groups. So we come together in circle every few months, so that they can experience what women's circles would be like, but for their own peers. It's so cool. It's really, really
that's
cool.
Inspiring. That is amazing, Kate. I love that.
Well, I guess I realized that, why wouldn't we make it accessible to them? Why is it only when this is when their minds are being formed and their ideals are being formed? So why not share that from a young age? That's really important to me, because I work with a lot of young teens and tweens as well as women. So I saw the benefits of sharing with them, rather than teaching them, but sharing, because they have their own intuitive superpowers, which they are already fully aware of. And so it's just about helping them to own that and have the courage to kind of walk their talk and walk, whichever way they want to show up in the world. It's pretty special.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. And I really wish that there was like some sort of teen circle around when I was younger, because that would have just been incredible.
Me too. I wish there was one for me too.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up our chat today, I know you have lots of beautiful resources that people can buy, and you've got lots of stuff happening. So would you like to share whatever it is your focus is at the moment, or whatever it is that you'd love to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share my offerings too.
Yeah.
So first up, the Moon Manifesting Calendar. It's a free download. So yeah, I'd highly recommend that if you're curious about working with the moon, just curious to check in with the energy of the lunar cycle, then that's a really good starting point. If you want to go a bit deeper, check out my book, Moon Manifesting. That's available on Amazon worldwide. Just search for Moon Manifesting in Amazon. It should come up. And also the Herbal Moon Goddess Academy. It's my online witch school, I guess. And inside the Herbal Moon Goddess Academy, You'll learn all about tarot, astrology, working with the moon, meditation, yoga. I have I think, I don't know, 11 different courses in there, which you get access to all of them once you sign up as an Academy member. And then you also get access to our beautiful student community where we do full moon circles every month as well. So it's a really beautiful space to be in. And yeah, I'll send through all the links so Kay can have them for everyone to check out if you're interested.
Everything we've talked about today, I will share either below the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, I will share it on YouTube as well. So you'll be able to find the links. If I miss anything, reach out to me and I will send it through to you, because I think there's so much value in the work that you're doing, Kyra. I know when I get excited that that's an avenue that I need to look into. So I'm going to go and download the calendar and I'm going to go and buy your book so that I can.
Oh, thank you.
Because that's how it works, right? Just follow your curiosity and follow your excitement, because that's your intuition guiding you in the right direction for you. So yeah. Do you only work with people online? If you work with people in person, I'm not sure. What is it that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm based in Tamworth in New South Wales, so kind of out in the country a bit. And I don't really do much in-person stuff at the moment with the current situation. So yeah, at the moment it's just mainly online.
Right.
Yeah, and I do tarot and astrology readings as well online, but I'm actually closed for that at the moment. So yeah, stay tuned. If you're interested in that, stay tuned. I'll be reopening those soon.
Great. So you can work with Kyra from wherever you are based in the world, which is fantastic. And Kyra, you forgot to mention your podcast. Do you have a podcast show as well?
Yeah, I do. Like you said, I'm one of those people who just do everything. Yeah, you can find me at the Help a Moon Goddess podcast. And that's where I chat all about the moon and astrology and tarot and all that sort of fun stuff.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our chat. You have the most beautiful energy. And when I first came across you, that is what I connected with, was your energy. I heard your audio on Instagram. It wasn't your page, it was someone else's. And I was like, oh, I really need to reach out to this lady. So keep shining your light. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Kate. It's been an absolute pleasure to connect with you today too.